welcome to Geology, a channel dedicated to biology or the study of life. We are in our fifth video and the last video of the tongue series. In this video, we are going to be discussing about the blood vessels of the tongue, the lymphatic drainage of the tongue, and also the different glands which are associated with the tongue. Anything associated with tongue is lingual. So you will find this term lingual coming around many times in the video today. Now, when we talk about blood vessels, we have two types of blood vessels, the arteries and the veins. Arteries are always the vessels which bring blood into an organ, and veins take the blood away from the organ, and hence the arteries are mentioned as the arterial supply, whereas when it comes to discussing about the veins, we call it venous drainage. Okay, so the tongue has a rich blood supply, and that is required because that supports its function in taste, speech, and swallowing. Let's start with the arterial. So the main artery which supplies the tongue is the lingual artery. So now lingual artery is a branch of the external carotid artery. So the branch of external carotid artery which supplies to the tongue is called the lingual artery. Lingual artery in turn again divides into several branches. The first one is the dorsal lingual artery, which supplies to the posterior part of the tongue and the tonsils. So that is the back part of the tongue closer to the tonsils is supplied by the dorsal lingual arteries. When the lingual artery moves all the way till the front of the tongue or the anterior tip of the tongue, then it is known as deep lingual artery. The third one is the sublingual artery. Anything which is sub means below. So the sublingual artery supplies to the sublingual gland and the floor of the mouth. Okay. Now coming to the venous drainage. The main vein is the lingual vein, and the lingual vein is formed by, now see, arteries are dividing and branching out. Veins are getting formed. So smaller veins, they join together and form a bigger vein. So lingual vein is formed by two veins, the deep lingual vein and the dorsal lingual vein. The deep lingual vein, just like the lingual artery, it is visible under the ventral surface, that is the lower or the below surface of the tongue, and it drains the anterior part of the tongue. The second one, or the dorsal lingual veins, are the ones which are in the posterior part of the tongue, and they drain the blood from the posterior part of the tongue. Now, all these veins ultimately, both of these two veins together forms the lingual vein, and then that ultimately drains into the internal jugular vein. The sublingual vein is a small vein located under the mucosa of the floor of the mouth near the sublingual gland. It is often visible on either side of the frenulum of the tongue under the tongue's ventral surface. So when you lift your tongue, you can see this vein. Its function basically is to drain the blood from the sublingual gland and the floor of the mouth, and partially from the anterior part of the tongue. It directly contributes to the lingual vein, which then drains into the internal jugular vein. Now why is this sublingual vein important? That's because it is a part of the venous network under the tongue which allows rapid absorption of certain drugs which are placed sublingually, like the nitroglycerin, and that is possible due to the thin mucosa and the rich blood supply. So while not a major drainage pathway for the bulk of the tongue, the sublingual vein plays a supporting role, especially in draining the floor of the mouth and the anterior region, and connects with the lingual venous system. Let's now see the lymphatic drainage of the tongue. This is important for the spread of infections and malignancies. Now, lymphatic drainage is divided based on the anatomical parts of the tongue. So, the apex or the tip of the tongue drains bilaterally into the submental lymph nodes and then into the submandibular and deep cervical nodes. The lateral margins of the anterior two-thirds drain primarily into the submandibular lymph nodes, which then drain into the deep cervical nodes, especially the jugulo-omohyoid node. The central part or the anterior two-thirds drain bilaterally and directly into the deep cervical lymph nodes, particularly the jugulo-omohyoid node. Number 4, the posterior one-third, which is the base of the tongue. Lastly, drains bilaterally into the deep cervical lymph node, especially the jugulo-digastric nodes and jugulo-omohyoid nodes. Now, because of the bilateral drainage, cancers of the tongue can spread to the lymph nodes on both sides of the neck, because of which early detection and management becomes very crucial. Now, let's look at the salivary glands which are associated with the tongue. The salivary glands include both major and minor salivary glands. Their primary function is to secrete saliva, which aids in digestion, lubrication, and oral hygiene. Now, first let's look at the major salivary glands. So, the major ones are the submandibular glands, which are located beneath the floor of the mouth near the angle of the mandible. Now, most of these glands again get their names from the location where they are present. Their ducts, that is the Wharton's ducts, open at the sublingual papilla, which are near the base of the tongue. These glands produce both serous and mucus secretions, predominantly serous. Now, the next set of glands is the sublingual glands. These glands are located beneath the mucosa of the floor of the mouth, anterior to the submandibular glands. Okay, so they are in front of the submandibular glands. They open via multiple small ducts, which are the ducts of Rivinus, and into the floor of the mouth. The major excretory duct of sublingual gland is the Bartholin's duct. It is a single large duct and it joins with the Wharton's duct to drain into the sublingual caruncle. So, in a sense, the ducts of Ravenous are numerous smaller ducts, while Bartholin duct is a primary larger duct which joins with the Wharton duct for the main drainage of the sublingual gland. So, these glands mainly produce mucus secretions. So, the submandibular glands produce serous secretions and the sublingual glands produce mucus secretions. So, these are the two major salivary glands which are related to the tongue. The other major salivary gland is the parotid gland, but these are not directly associated with the tongue. However, they contribute indirectly to the tongue function through saliva secretion into the oral cavity. So, the parotid gland, looking at its relevance to the tongue, though the duct does not open near the tongue, the glands are present in front of or below the ear, overlying the masseter muscle. Though the duct doesn't open near the tongue, the saliva from the parotid gland mixes with the food and spreads throughout the oral cavity, including around the tongue, aiding in digestion and taste. So, next, let's look at the minor salivary glands, which are particularly associated with the tongue. The first one is the anterior lingual glands, which is the glands of Blandin and Noon. These are located on the underside of the apex of the tongue. And these are mixed glands, so they secrete both mucus and serous fluids. Then we have the posterior lingual glands or the Weber's glands. These are located at the base of the tongue, particularly around the lingual tonsils. These are mainly mucus secreting glands. And then we have von Ebner's glands. These are serous glands and they are located near the circumvallate and foliate papillae on the dorsum of the tongue. So, their secretion helps in taste perception by flushing the material from the taste buds. So, the salivary glands associated with the tongue, that is the submandibular, sublingual and various minor lingual glands, they play a vital role in moistening the oral cavity. They aid in digestion and they help in maintaining oral health. So, among them, the von Ebner's glands are especially important in the taste function. So, with this, we come to an end of this section of the tongue series, and I hope you did enjoy all the videos related to the tongue, And if you haven't seen them, I have the links given in the description box. Please look at the other 4 videos as well, and hope you will find them informative. If you do like the video, then please subscribe to the channel Jivology. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and commenting into this section.